Welcome to my May wrap up. We are going to have some dog barking in the background right now. My husband is dealing with the goats and the sheep, and we've had to tie him up because he's got herding instincts, and we just don't need that interference right now. We're still training him. So apologies for the barking the entire time. He's fine, I promise. I think I read 7 books, but I had a lot of DNFs and I felt like I meandered quite a bit in May, but that is okay. Let's start with the DNFs, the Womp Womps. Did start reading The Berry Pickers for April for the ILYA challenge, and I got about 50% of the way in and had to return it, and then didn't feel really the need to continue it. There was something about it that was okay. This is a Canadian novel. I listened to the author give an interview on the radio and I thought, okay, well, this should be really interesting. It's about a family that's an Aboriginal family that has lost one of their children, and they kind of go through life mourning the loss of her. And then we get, on the flip side, that child, I'm pretty sure this isn't a spoiler, and what ends up happening to her. And because of that, there was really no mystery. Like, yes, I wanted everybody to meet again, and I don't know if that happens because I didn't finish it. And it just didn't hit the way that I wanted it to hit, and unfortunately I DNF'd this one. I also started reading A Brief History of Everyone Who Ever Lived. I got maybe 25% of the way into this one. At one point, I accidentally clicked on the footnotes and was just reading the footnotes, and I thought, this is really funny. These are very anecdotal. Like, it doesn't read the way that it was just reading. I was just struggling with it. So I didn't even notice. I mean, I noticed the change, but my brain didn't go, oh, you're reading the footnotes. Doesn't matter. This is a very good introduction to DNA and how the human genome works. And it wasn't for me right now. It was a bit too brainy, but it wasn't jargony. So it felt very approachable. So if this is something that you are interested in, the DNA and the history of our ancestry and how family trees work, please check this one out. Look him up on podcasts and stuff. He did an interview with the BBC History, and I loved it. So unfortunately I had to DNF the book, but doesn't mean that the book was bad. It just means that I wasn't ready for it. The reads that I had, the first one was a 4 stars, and it was called The Great Transition. This one originally came up for me because I was looking for purple books, and I started reading it, and there was something very compelling about the writing and the setup. So it's a post-climate collapse where people have basically gotten together and got the world to 0 emissions, and it's kind of following what the world has been transformed into, but also then how people are still not happy with how things are. We're following a family, a man, a woman, so husband and wife, and their daughter. And their daughter gets a point of view and the husband gets a point of view. The mother is very unlikable, and this can rub people the wrong way. For me, she did rub me the wrong way because family, for me, is the most important thing. And for her, the most important thing was continuing the rebellion. The mom becomes a part of this rebellion group and basically kind of becomes like a terrorist, kind of. She's got a lot of trauma, and I think the author tried really hard to make her sympathetic, but her decisions are super duper not sympathetic. So the daughter has a very interesting point of view, and the husband, we get flashbacks to him working in the fire brigades and the what did they call it? The deconstruction Nordgroove. Basically, he worked a lot with a lot of people trying to fix the world after everything went to. I really enjoyed this approach to the idea of what could happen. So I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. If you enjoy anything climate, science fiction, or even like a post-apocalyptic, you might really enjoy this book. I listened to The Girl Who Came Home. I pulled this one out of my wild jar. Couldn't even remember what it was, but this is a Titanic historical fiction novel. The people surrounding her were inspired by real people. So we get a back and forth. We get the past Titanic, and then we get the future of a granddaughter learning all about her grandmother's experience on the ship. So, yes, we know what happens at the end of the novel, but I found this one to be quite lovely without being trite. There were some wonderful elements to it. Loaded gun on the mantelpiece that was set off at the very end, and we understood there was a very, very nice tie-in. Like, it was very bow on top, ribbony, lovely. So if you really enjoy Titanic fiction, I really enjoyed this one, and I found this one to be quite lovely considering it's very, very tragic. I gave that one 4 stars. 5 stars. Do I need to even talk about this? Like, this is my 3rd time reading this one in the last 2 years, and I love it even more. Just one of those books that is so digestible, but it is so complex, and there's so much to get into. And yet, there's something about Emily's writing that is so tight and crafted and wonderful, and I love it. And I can't recommend this one enough, and this is like one of my all-time favorite books, and I'm so glad to have reread it again. Oh no. I'm gonna need a big swig of coffee for this one. This was on my science fiction. I'm interested in this one because it's just the one of those premises of like the post-apocalyptic kind of like end of the world ideas where all of a sudden humanity stops giving birth, and it's about the fallout. And I don't want to say hated, but I strongly disliked this one. There was nothing sympathetic about the characters. The writing was the only redeemable thing. I gave it 2 stars because of the writing. There were passages that I did read several times because I absolutely loved how the author phrased things. But the characters were flat. The characters I did not care about. I could not tell you anything about them. This main character feels like he's just kind of like wandering about. He's just like this doobie-doo kind of guy. Like, at least in the Hopkins manuscript, this ordinary fella had some opinions about things. Like, yeah, he wasn't likable, but he had opinions and he stuck to them. This other guy was like, nah, life, he was so passive. I hated him. I struggled so much because even though the writing was there were info dumps basically explaining like, oh, and this is how humanity reacted to not having kids. Like, what was the point of even copulating if we can't have kids? Like, people just losing interest in each other, and this generation of last kids, like, they're all messed up. Like, okay, but like, why aren't we given one of their viewpoints? Because that would have been fascinating. The character that she chose was the wrong character for this story, and I'm really disappointed with that. There are so many more potential better people to have followed. I ended up skimming this one to the end, and the ending didn't even change my mind. I was like, okay, whatever. I finished that one, and I'm really sad, and I've heard so many good things about the movie. One of my friends even said, hey, I didn't know that was a book. I really loved the movie. And you know what I told him? I said, don't read it. It's boring. Don't read it. Just enjoy the movie as it is. Don't even touch the book. 2 stars. No, thank you. Okay, flip side, 5 stars, A Fate Inked in Blood. I picked this one up because it was the #1 book read in the ILYA challenge, and I can totally see why. This is the one that gave me the most classic Sarah J. Maas vibes, like the A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Thorns and Roses, the ACOTAR series. This one was totally that. I have read Danielle L. Jensen before she wrote The Stolen Songbird. I read the entire trilogy. Would not recommend book 2 or 3. However, book 1, fantastic. Super duper fantastic. Her writing has not only improved, but her ability to create sort of twisty, turny reveals and betrayals, like she's still got that. So that was why this one ended up getting bumped up. It was less so about the romance for me. I mean, that's part of it. Yeah, okay, fine. That's why a lot of people read it, because it's a romantasy. But I think the world itself is fascinating. It's very much a Nordic fantasy. You've got, like the classic sort of Nordic gods. I mean, the main character's name is Freya. So she was named for a god that her mother hoped was her muse inspired person. She's got this ability to call on a god and get the power of her as a shield maiden, which is really cool. The introduction, like the first section, is just so compelling. The setup for it. There's so much to it. There's, yeah, a lot of Lord of the Rings inspiration, but like it was so cool and I just couldn't stop. Like I felt giddy reading it, and would 100% recommend it. If you like fantasies with a Nordic twist and you like your romantasies, then I would recommend this one for sure. 5 stars. Okay, but like also it's kind of steamy, so like if that's not your thing, maybe don't read that one. If you like your romance is a little cleaner, but this one is steamy, but not too steamy. I think it's what people call a slow burn. And the last one that I finished was the 6th book in the Veronica Speedwell series. I wrote it down because I can never remember the title. An Unexpected Peril. This one was like, each one is kind of this cute little encapsulated focus. So this focus was a lady mountaineer has gone missing. No, she falls to her death. And Veronica is like, she was murdered. And Stoker's like, are you sure? And Veronica's like, oh, absolutely. We need to investigate this. And Stoker's like, oh, we don't need to investigate it. Like it's been investigated and she wasn't murdered. And Veronica's all like, well, you know what? I'm going to go investigate anyway. And it's just about her headstrong into the situation. Whether or not she's right, you have to read for yourself. Like it's still fun to read Veronica and Stoker, their back and forth, their little repartees, and the adventures and the silliness that they go on. I was kind of hoping this one would take them out of England and put them in this fake alpine country where they've got this very famous mountain for climbing, but nope. So that's the thing that is kind of weird about this series is that Veronica travels. She is well traveled, and yet every book is set in England. I kind of want to go with her on an adventure somewhere. I think that would be fun. Like, let's put Stoker and Veronica on a boat where they get stuck together and have to survive. Like, come on, that would be fun. That could be fun. I'm going to continue on in the series and see what happens next, but this one was a 4 stars for me. But I'll continue this series. I'm enjoying it. Reading one every other month has been fantastic. So overall, it was a pretty good reading month. Like, yeah, I had some flops, but I also had some really great reads, and I'm looking forward to some more 5 stars, please. My name is Karen. I'm the Book Liberdot. I read all types of books. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Oh, I missed a book. How? But I forgot Shark Heart. I read Shark Heart and rather enjoyed that one. This is what I wanted the Book of Love to be. This was sweet, magical realism, a little bit of romance, but not like romance like the smoochy kind of romance, but like the we've been together a long time and we're lovely with each other romance. The premise is that this man gets this diagnosis that he is slowly morphing into a shark. He is a drama teacher. I kind of liked that edge to it. And it's about how his wife and him are facing the diagnosis together. I guess it could be a big metaphor for illness or a terminal diagnosis, but there was something really lovely in it. It did get a little bit bogged down by some kind of device that the author kind of threw in, but was redeemed in the epilogue where it was just lovely, opened up my heart. It was all wonderful again, and this one really brought a sense of hope to a possibly pretty tragic situation, but it was lovely. And I would highly recommend this one. I've been recommending this one to people. If you want a lovely little read, this one for sure. I gave it 4 stars. I just finished the wrap up, and you're gonna get like a little bit of editing